Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're going to get into the really exacting language of professional dance.
Yeah, we're looking at how choreographers and critics talk using, some high-level educational guides as our map.
Exactly. And the mission here is to get the tools to talk about dance with real precision. We want to move beyond just saying, oh, that was a nice move.
Right. It's about dissecting the intent behind the movement, the technique.
So you can really understand the art form.
Absolutely. The guides we looked at are all about building that skill set. They focus on three main things: the elements of dance, composition, and the all-important cultural context. It's about synthesis, not just description.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the analytical toolkit. When you're just looking at a dancer on stage in a single pose, where do you even begin? What kind of language are we talking about?
Well, you have to get much more specific than just stretched out or curled up. It's about identifying the geometry. You look for similarities and differences between shapes to figure out the expressive intent. So you might see two dancers are both making angular shapes, but how are they different?
So let's unpack that. The guides talk about open versus closed shapes. Can you walk us through what that actually means in technical terms?
Sure. An open shape, it's what it sounds like. Arms and legs are probably outstretched, but the key detail is the torso is often stretched convexly.
Convexly, so sort of bowing outward.
Exactly, pushing out into space. Now, a closed shape is the opposite. The arms might be pulled in, tightly angled.
And the torso would be?
More concave.
Yeah.
Pulled inward. The legs are closer together. It suggests a kind of containment, an internal focus.
That's a fascinating distinction, because it's not just happy versus sad. It's expansive versus contained.
That's the whole point. You're reading the physical language, not just guessing at the emotion.
Okay, so what happens when you add another person? Let's talk about partner work. How do all these elements come together to create meaning in, say, a lift?
This is where it gets really interesting, because you see all the elements: energy, time, space converging. A strong analysis would point out the sustained intensity of energy.
Even in a still pose.
Especially in a still pose. The dancers are using incredible muscular tension to create these beautifully balanced lines. It's not static, it's active.
So how is that communicated in the composition of the pose itself?
Often through geometry. Think about oppositional lines. You'll often see a strong horizontal line playing against a vertical one.
Creating right angles.
Yes, and that creates this feeling of maximum force, power, excitement. And for the dancers, that requires just relentless balance and that sustained control we were talking about.
Okay, so we've covered the outer shape, the geometry, but what about where the movement actually starts? The hidden mechanics.
Right, and this brings us to a really crucial technical idea.
Which is proximal initiation. What on earth does that mean?
It sounds complex, but the idea is simple. Proximal just means closer to the core of your body. Distal is further away, like your fingers and toes. So proximal initiation means the movement starts from the center and flows outward. Think of a rotation that begins in the torso and then radiates out into the arm.
And why is that so important? What's the difference if it starts in the arm instead?
It's everything. Movement that starts from the core is supported, it's powerful, it's integrated. When it starts from the fingertips distally, it can look weaker, less connected.
Or disjointed.
Exactly. Proximal initiation means you have core stability, which gives you maximum control.
That makes so much sense. And it ties directly into how dancers train, right? Like when they're at the bar, practicing playas and releves over and over again.
Yes. That simple exercise is developing three incredibly important skills for jumping.
And those are?
Alignment, of course. Foot articulation. But the most fascinating one is the eccentric use of leg muscles.
Okay, you have to break that down. Eccentric.
Most people think muscles only work by shortening, by contracting. That's concentric. But as a dancer sinks into a plie to prepare for a jump, the hamstrings are actually lengthening under tension. That's eccentric contraction. That controlled lengthening is what absorbs shock and, more importantly, generates incredible power for the jump. It's the secret sauce.
So controlled lengthening is just as important as the explosive push. Amazing. Let's shift gears a bit. From the how of the technique to the why of the choreography. How do choreographers use all these tools to tell a story?
Well, let's take a really complex theme. One of the sources analyzed a piece about the COVID-19 pandemic. The themes were loneliness, separation, isolation.
A heavy topic. How do you even begin to translate that feeling into movement,
The choreographer used Martha Graham's famous technique of contraction and release.
which is all about the breath, right?
Exactly, generated by breath and body energy. So dancers would physically visualize that loneliness by contracting, pulling their midsection in, holding it, and then releasing.
A physical representation of withdrawing into yourself.
Precisely, and that was contrasted with other dancers using short, sharp, hinged arm movements, almost robotic.
To create a sense.
Monotony, the feeling of being stuck. Every single choice was designed to communicate that specific psychological state.
Incredible. Okay, but what about a lighter intent? How do you create humor in dance? It seems tricky.
I mean, it is, but
What?
the most direct way is through exaggeration. The strategy is to create phrases that use exaggerated movements.
You're subverting what the audience expects to see.
Exactly. You blow up the shape, the timing, the energy. It becomes absurd, surprising, and that's what makes it funny.
It's all about playing with expectations. And what about production? The sets, the lights. Sometimes the most powerful choice is nothing at all.
Absolutely. One of the analyses we looked at was for an Afro-Caribbean dance, and it specifically noted the lack of distracting or bright stage setting.
Why was that so important?
Because it forced your eye to focus entirely on the dancer's movement, on the specific, purposeful hops and turns, minimal staging, maximal movement, no digressions.
So every element, even the absence of an element, is a choice.
It has to be.
And these choices don't happen in a vacuum, do they? They're all part of a larger historical and cultural conversation.
A huge part of it. I mean, think about the pioneers of American modern dance. Someone like Ruth St. Denis.
Right.
Her work was hugely influenced by thematic movement ideas of traditional East and South Asian dances. She incorporated Asian-influenced styles, costumes, stories, and that pushed the boundaries of what was considered dance in the West at the time.
It's a great example of that cultural cross-pollination. Let's look at another one. Frevo. It's a carnival dance from northern Brazil.
Yes, and it's so vibrant, the bright colors, the music, and these tiny toy-sized umbrellas everyone carries. It just screams joy and cheerfulness.
But there's more to the umbrellas, isn't there?
Oh, there's so much more. This is where the research really pays off. If you dig into the origins and historical development of Frevo, you find out those little umbrellas are substitutes.
Substitutes for what?
For knives.
Wait, really? Knives?
Yes. In the early days, capoeira practitioners would dance ahead of parading military bands, and they carried knives to, clear the way and defend their group's territory.
Wow. So that joyful little umbrella has this martial history.
It completely changes how you see the dance, doesn't it? A symbol of joy that's rooted in protection and rivalry.
That is exactly the kind of depth we're talking about. Let's bring it into the present day. What about a contemporary style like hip-hop? Say, breakdancing.
Well, the formal term is breaking, and a key feature is what are known as power moves.
These are the big athletic moves, right? The spins and freezes.
Exactly. Acrobatic movements that use momentum, often supported on the hands or head, creating that incredible circular energy.
And to analyze that, to describe it, we actually use the same core language we'd use for ballet.
We do. We describe the dancer's shape as asymmetrical. We talk about their balance, the quality of their rotation. The vocabulary is universal, even when the style is completely different.
So today, we've really built up a new way to see and talk about dance. It's not just visual anymore. It's technical, it's historical, it's cultural.
We covered so much, from understanding how a concave shape can express isolation to the mechanics of proximal initiation. It's all connected.
And this deep dive really proved that every single choice a dancer or choreographer makes, from the angle of an arm to a prop with a hidden history, it's all deliberate, it's all informed.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider. We saw that a great analysis needs high-quality, specific evidence. It's the difference between saying the dancer did a pirouette and explaining why that turn was effective.
Right.
So here's the question. If you were watching a performance, how would you describe a complex movement, say a jump or a turn in, a way that goes beyond just naming it? How would you explain the interplay of muscular tension, alignment, and momentum that makes that specific movement meaningful?
Thinking about that, that's the real difference, isn't it? The difference between just seeing dance and truly deeply understanding it.